Hello everyone, this is the Daily Driver. So today I got this 2008 Toyota Corolla CE here. Now today I just want to go ahead and cover over some of the things that you want to look for if you're looking to purchase this specific vehicle. And the best place to get started here is here on the exterior. So let's just go ahead and start with this front panel up here. Now we just want to capture a reflection in this panel and just go ahead and carry that down the side of the car. And again, I've showed this in some of my videos here. Now what you're looking for is dull paint that looks different if it has what's called orange peel, kind of bumps in the paint. It's also good to, just kind of put a hand on the paint, see if it's, feels different from one panel to the next. Those can definitely be indicators of accidents or paint and body work. And again, of course, if you're looking to buy this car, you don't want to have to deal with those sorts of problems. So we'll just go around the back here, just taking a look. Definitely you want to make sure that the gapping here on, either side of the trunk is about the same. Also, with any of the door seals, what you can do is just go ahead and just put your finger there and measure the difference here from door panel to door panel. And that's definitely a good way to be able to tell maybe if something's not aligned right, something doesn't look right or whatnot. And of course, we're just looking along the sides here, just looking at the body, looking for scratches, looking for dull paint or paint that doesn't look right. Definitely just looking in here, feeling the width, the tread width on the tires here. And of course, you can find a little wear marker, and if the tire's flat with that wear marker, you're going to need some new tires. Looking at the headlights. Now these headlights are very thin plastic, so they do tend to get fogged, and that's a common issue here with these Toyota Corollas. But no big issue, you can always have those cleaned up. Just looking at the front, take a look underneath, look for any dripping of any sort underneath the vehicle. You want to look for oil leaks, things like that. There's a oil pan right up here, you can see it right there. Just look around the seal of that, make sure that's not leaking. That could be an expensive fix. And again, we'll just go ahead and do this down the same side here, but before we do that, just take a look at the hood and just see that everything matches up. Look at the paint of it and compare it to the other panels on the sides next to it. Just kind of put your fingers across here, get a feel for the paint itself. And then we'll just start from this side. We'll just capture that glare from one panel to the next. And you just basically do the same thing, check the widths of the doors, like in here in these slots, just making sure everything seems about right with the car. A little dirty here. And of course, this is my Uber car, so. And just looking under here in the back, take a look real quick. Just looking at everything, looking around the wheels, making sure there's no leaks or anything like that coming from the back end here. Alright, so let's just go ahead and take a look onto the interior. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look on the interior. Alright, so with this car, what I want to do first here about the interior is kind of tell you about a couple things that the car does not have. And this is so basic. Now you can see it has the roll-up windows. It doesn't even have as much as power door locks. Doesn't have power door locks. It does have mirror controls, which is nice for the left and right at least. You have your brightness here for the gauges at night. And then you have traction control here, actually. You can see that. You can see that there. And then of course, you have your high and low beams, those sorts of things. It does have air conditioning, which is great. And it does have power outlet there. It also has a power outlet in here, which is nice. It always comes in handy for charging your phones or other electronics. Yeah, this car is just really basic. And the other thing that it does not have is that it does not have cruise control. So if if you're doing long drives and you really don't like having your foot on the gas the whole time, this definitely would probably not be the ideal car for you, in the sense that it doesn't even have the cruise control there, so you're always on the gas. But let's go take a look at some of these other features here. Now here it does have control. For this, you just press that and you can actually tilt the steering wheel down, tilt the steering wheel up, but it allows you to do that, which is kind of nice as well. And then you just go ahead and lock it there. It has one little compartment here for change. You got a little compartment here on the side, not too much room, especially with these manual roll-up windows that kind of get in the way if you have papers and other stuff sitting there. Just has a little compartment there. And of course this is a 4-speed automatic, so it has 2 cup holders here, little holder for a phone or whatever else you might have there. And you can see it has all-weather mats here on the front. Now the thing is, this car is so basic it didn't even come with floor mats. So that was another thing that was kind of annoying, but it's okay. I just put some all-weather in there, no big deal. And then it does have a glove compartment. You got a pretty decent amount of room. Put all your stuff in there. And again, you have your different controls here for how you want the air conditioning, how much you want that blowing, and then your hot and your cold. Normal controls for the radio are up here as well. And let's go ahead and take a look here on the back. I'll show you a little more about it. But again, the seats, just looking at the seats, making sure all the seats are there, all clean and everything like that. So it does have the controls for the seat here and here, but that's basically it. That also has your trunk release here and your gas tank release there. So let's take a look here in the back seats. Especially when you're looking at these cars, you just want to really compare the exterior. How clean is the exterior as compared to the interior? And that can actually tell you a lot about how the car has been taken care of under the hood and just in general overall. Another thing is looking up on the ceilings, because if it's like black soot and all that up there, it may have been smoked in or whatnot at one time or another. And a great feature that I love about these seats, which I'm going to show you right now, is that they do fold down 60-40 split, which is definitely a huge selling point for me. So you actually just go to the trunk, open it up, you pull that there, and that releases this side. Then you go ahead on the other side here, you pull it, just pull it once, and then it will release the other side. So we can go ahead and fold these on down. And of course I do have my seat back a little further. You can take the headrests off or whatever, but it actually clears up quite a bit of room from the trunk forward, which honestly I love. I put a bunch of stuff in here, so you can see there's a good adequate amount of room. And as compared to some other cars I've owned, there's a lot more space here on the sides. If you're looking on the sides, that really opens up the space and what you can put through and through with this car. And again, just looking at some of the other things here while we're back here in the trunk, of course you got your speakers here and your speakers there that actually go through to the back. Of course you can see that in there. Take a look, just kind of rub your fingers around here. You're looking to see if there's, if it's bumpy on one side or if it looks kind of not painted properly or something, because this could be a huge indicator for accidents if the car's ever been rear-ended or anything like that. And there should be a VIN number back here, which would be located actually right here. And you want to just make sure to follow that VIN number, get the VIN number, and then just make sure that it matches up, and we'll show you right now. Make sure that it matches up with the VIN number that's up here on your front window, and that will be located on your front window. And then just go ahead and match it to all the other panels around the car. This is another good point to see if the car's actually ever been in an accident. And of course we have all you need to see right up here. You have the VIN number there, and then of course if you're ever in question of what year the car might be, like this one, you can find it right here, where it was made, when it was made, how much it weighs in the front and the rear, and how much the car weighs overall, your tire pressure, If you need anything to find out if you're not sure how much tire pressure to put in your tires, you can always find that right here in the front door. And then again, it says 10 of 07, so it's actually, I'm not sure exactly which month it is, but this one being made in 10 of 2007, it's actually a 2008 model. But again, just looking at that VIN number, look, I got another VIN number here, everything matches up. Of course, just looking at the paint as you're going through this, make sure, especially to make sure that all the doors open and close properly. That's another big indicator. Listen for the sound of it if it's not closing, if there's some rubber in the way or something causing it to kind of not close or whatnot, that might be an issue, but it could be something simple as just the rubber sticking out. So you just want to verify that. And again, we're just looking around, and then actually you can look here on the side of the front door here, passenger door. It does have the VIN number. Again, it will have this on all the panels. You could also find this under the hood, which I'm going to show you right now. So going ahead to look under the hood here now, just to pop it open here in the front, you'll see there's like a little slot here, if you can see that, and you just reach right back there and you can feel it. Just pull it up, that'll open the hood for you. And then the little stick here to hold it up is actually on this left hand side. Just go ahead and put that over there. Alright, so the first thing I did want to show you was going to be the VIN number that's actually located on the front here. And you'll see that right here on the side. And that all the VIN numbers do match on this car, of course. And then you'll see another VIN number here on this side. And you can see all the VIN numbers are the same, especially on this side as well. So there's going to be some on both VIN numbers on both sides of the car. Now, to get into some of the maintenance things to look for, you know, just in terms of how the car's been maintained, take a look at the AC condenser, and that's a small radiator up here in front, located in front of your actual radiator. And you just want to look and make sure that it doesn't look beat up, it's all kind of starting to rust or corrode or anything like that. That would mean you'd need to replace that. And we're just taking a look, making sure, you know, what you could do here too is just rub your fingers across and see that all that feels smooth, doesn't feel like anything's been changed from one side to the other. You know, I want to make sure that these match. And you can see these are little crash, these little marks here are actually, if you get in an accident, different parts of the crumble zone in the front of the vehicle if you have a front end collision, and so you can actually use those as your guider to match both sides of the vehicle. And again, that will indicate, you know, whether or not it's been in an accident from the front end. And looking and making sure all the paint's consistent here under the hood. You know, if it's been repainted or had something done here, you'll be able to see that clearly. One part of the paint looks different than the other, or there's going to be overspray, that sort of thing. So you'll be able to notice that really quick. So with the power steering, you just want to make sure that the levels are up to par here, and then, you know, you don't want your levels too low. Now, some of the issues that I've read online with these cars, and having worked around them for a while, that the power steering hoses themselves, you want to give those a feel, just kind of squeeze on them there, make sure they're not too hard or anything, because what happens is they start to get cracks in them and everything, and then they'll start to leak, and that's general for these cars. It's been an issue, but they're not very expensive to repair. It could be under $100. And of course, you want to make sure that your engine mounts here are not ripped and cracked, and you can tell there's a rubber piece here inside, so if they do tend to go, those rubber pieces will be actually kind of hanging out, or they'll be cracked through, and that's another thing. It will make the car run a little rough, especially when you start it up. Also, you got your alternator here, and you're just looking, you know, it's kind of a little corroded on the outside, nothing big, but you're looking on the inside, and you want to look and make sure there's no rust or corrosion or anything like that on the inside, because you need a new alternator at that time if that were the case. And then of course, checking the coolant here. Usually you don't want to open this thing, obviously, at least here you don't want to open this when it's hot. You want to let the car cool down. That, you know, reaches boiling temperatures of 212.5 degrees. So if you open that up, it could blow up in your face. Bad thing to happen. Just check the levels here on the coolant. Make sure that the level's up to par. You don't want it low, because then it's going to be harder for your car to cool itself down, and it's a very important part of the car. And it's a little harder here because of all the plastic they got around the fan and everything here. But just look at the fan, make sure the fan's matching the color of the rest of the plastic that's here. Also, if you kind of peek through, you can see the radiator back there, and just look and see that that's not all beat up or rusted or just really old looking, because it could mean you need a new radiator or anything. Also, one cool thing, obviously we have our oil dipstick here. You always want to check the oil and make sure that's up to par. But what's really cool is that this one does have a radiator dipstick, or excuse me, a transmission oil dipstick. And a lot of newer cars these days don't actually come with a transmission oil dipstick, which obviously you'd actually have to take it to a mechanic to have them inspect that. So it's really cool that you're actually able to check the oil, the level, and what it looks like on your own. Of course, looking at the battery here, just looking at, sometimes there's a date, there's not one on this. You just want to make sure, oh, yes there is, actually 11 of 2016, so it's very new. Just want to make sure it's not past 3-4 years, because then the batteries will start to go out. You'll know that'd be another expense. And you have your mass airflow sensor up here, and you got your air filter in here. You can simply check that by pulling these out. Just make sure that everything looks good, especially here. Just kind of feel this. You don't want this to start cracking. This is your air intake inlet tube here, and this, these could be needed to be replaced at some time. Also, just feeling your radiator hose, make sure it's not stiff or cracked or anything like that, another expense. And then also here, one really good way to really find out how the car has been maintained is to actually, simple thing, just pull out the cap here, dump the oil, and then just look on the inside. And you see how it's a little brownish there? So it's got a little bit of just burnt oil on the inside. That's not even an issue, because sometimes what you'll see here is if it's all gummed up, you know that the engine oil hasn't been replaced on a timely maintenance routine or anything like that, or it could be long times between the intervals of changing the oil. So that's going to be very important there as well. And again, just looking around the rest of the motor, you're just looking for leaks. Any leaks are going to be of concern, but obviously, as you can see, we've gone through this car here under the hood, there's no leaks or anything of the sorts. And then you got your oil filter actually right down there, if you can see it, and everything looks good here. So at this point, I'll go ahead and give it a drive and explain more about the car to you. Alright, so I'm about to fire it up right now and just kind of point out a few things that you want to look for, as you start up the car and are giving it a drive at this point. So let's go ahead and fire it up. Fires up really nice. So one thing I want to mention here is the dials. Keep an eye on the dials. So after I've started the vehicle, it's the RPMs, they're going to actually go down to its normal idle, which is going to be about 750, 800 RPMs per minute, and that's just at idle. And so you just want to make sure that it is at its idle speed there, because again, once you start up the car, it takes a minute or so for it to actually go down to its idle speed once the engine's a little colder. But again, when it's warmed up, it'll be at its proper idle speed. Keep a sharp eye on that. That's going to be very important. Alright, so also before we get going here, is I want to mention the transmission. It is a 4-speed automatic. Kind of weird that I even bought an automatic car. I still feel weird about it, but I love the way this thing drives. Like, it's a really great transmission, honestly. Going from stick shift to this, I think the transmission's great. But just go ahead and then take it, into reverse, into neutral, down through all the gears, and what you're actually feeling for. And we'll go back up here. What you're feeling for is if there's any jerking in the transmission as you go from gear to gear. So, from park to reverse, neutral, all the way down and all the way back up. And that will actually, if it's jumping a bunch when you're bringing it down to gear, that could actually be the torque converter. And so what the torque converter is, it's basically the same thing as what a clutch does in a stick shift car, right? So it's the main point that connects the transmission to the engine. and that's a very expensive repair if it has a bad torque converter, and that does happen sometimes in these cars. So just keep an eye out for that, and that's the way you can check with that. That's the easiest way for you to check. So we'll go ahead and get started here. We're going to give it a drive. I could go ahead and explain, talk about, you know, using all the, make sure that all these things work. You want to check the AC, turn it cold and turn it hot. You know, if it's not blowing cold air, it could be something as bad as an AC condenser that needs to be replaced, which would be extremely expensive in a worst case scenario, or it could just need something as simple as an AC recharge, which is not that much, but it could cost you about 120 bucks, just depending where you go, or if you do it yourself and you have the crazy machine. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to drive, and I'll just explain to you a little bit about the drivability, how the car drives, and things to look for, you know, and listen for while you're driving. So we'll get going here. So one of the things you're also looking for there is just to start the car up at least 3 or 4 times before you get driving. And the reason for that is because you can tell if it's having problems starting, if there's a start, you know, even not starting every time. Could be issues with the starter, or it could be something else, but that's definitely something you're wanting to keep an eye on. And that you can use to negotiate down the price of the vehicle. So as we drive it here, the first thing you'll notice is how light the pedal is on this car. And I really appreciate and admire how Toyota has really made a really nice driver's car, something that's really, I think, refined, because the Toyota Corolla is a longest lasting, you know, I would say a model of a car that's actually been produced since, you know, even the 60s. And so, you know, these cars have come a long way, and they've really refined these cars really well. They get great gas mileage, about 25, I would say anywhere from 25 to 35 miles per gallon, just depending on how you drive or where you're driving. Also, another thing is just that there's really very minor to few repairs that will ever need to be done with these cars. And, you know, having the automatic, you know, they say over long term it will cost you a lot more money for an automatic transmission as compared to a manual transmission. But honestly, if you buy a good car that doesn't have problems with the torque converter and the transmission feels really strong, you know, that's going to be a good indicator for a very good car. And you know, when you're driving, you'll feel the different. You'll feel when the car shifts. You want to make sure it's not jerking, because if it jerks or it kind of, you know, lurches, you know, that could actually be an issue with the torque converter. So just keep an eye out for that. I mean, you know, the car runs extremely smooth. So even when you're at idle, just kind of feel how it idles. If it's idling rough, it could need a tune-up. It could be, you know, actually a leak in the vacuum seal of the car. There's a lot of things, but, you know, you just want to keep your eyes and ears open to sounds. If there's something that doesn't sound right, something squeaking, you know, it could be something simple like just your brake rotors, or something else, and you might think it's a big issue, but it's really just keeping your eyes and ears open and listening for things, and looking at the things that I mentioned earlier in the video and throughout this video. So yeah, it's just a really great car. I love these cars, and they're super reliable, super cheap to maintain, and the value that you get for your car, that you can sell them for, they'll always hold their value, and as well, they'll always definitely, I mean, there's always going to be a huge market out there for them, and there already is, and lots of parts. Everything's cheap to maintain with these cars. So I mean, yeah, one of the things too is you'll just want to give it a little bit of gas to feel power in the car. You know, give it some gas, brake, feel the brakes are. Super hot in here right now, but yeah, it's just keeping your eyes and ears peeled. I don't hear anything wrong with this car right now, and yeah, sounds and runs perfect so far, you know. And you'll definitely want to take it and drive it for a good distance, maybe 15-20 minutes, get a good feel for the car, take it on the freeway, which is smart. Also, you know, you could, like right now, I don't feel any roughness through the tires, I don't feel any shaking, I don't feel anything, honestly. The car, I mean, look, I take my hands off and it goes perfectly straight. yeah, that means the alignment's good on the car. Yeah, the car rides extremely smooth. One thing too, also you can take it over a bump. If you hear any squeaking in the coming from the suspension or anything like that, you may have some bad shocks. You may have something going on down there if it's making a lot of noise, or if it's really rough when you're going over a bump. That's something you want to check too. Okay, so after going over that exterior, we went over the interior, we took a look through the trunk, we looked into the motor, and then we also gave it a drive. And after all that's said and done, this car, I mean, it's just a great car. It's very simple. You know, there's not much to this car to really go wrong with, which really brings down the cost of maintenance and ownership. And also, you know, the insurance costs on these cars are very cheap. Okay, so they're very easy to insure, cheap to insure rather. They're cheap on maintenance and very, very conservative on fuel, you know. And with everything together, I mean, the cost of ownership of this car is very low. These cars are great cars. They're super reliable. You know, it took me a couple months actually to find this specific one, because I'm always looking around as it is. But I found this one, and it's perfect. There's no problems, there's no leaks, there's nothing wrong with this car. And if you could find yourself a very good example of one of these, you know, make sure that you go ahead and look over all the things that I did mention throughout this video. And I just want to say, if you do want to take it a step further and you want to make sure that everything that you've looked at coincides with what's on the Carfax or auto check history report, do print one of those out, check it online. They're very important, and they'll tell you a lot more about the car than you knew about the car to begin with. So that's another thing you could do, and I would do that, you know, after I've already gone through the car, and if I like it, I would check an auto check or a Carfax. I just pull one up, and that will actually decide whether or not I'm going to purchase the vehicle at the end of the day. But just cover all your bases, look through the entire car thoroughly. You know, don't wait till after you've purchased the car to go ahead and decide, oh, well, I want to look at this, oh, I didn't look at this. Do it before you purchase the car, and you'll save yourself a lot of headache and a lot of trouble, and you'll get yourself the right car. So thanks again, everyone, for watching today. That's my video for now, and I'll be bringing some more to you soon. And if you have any comments, just drop them below in the comment box. And I appreciate your watching. Thank you, and have a good one till next time.